Bienvenidos a Colombia Antigua. La historia es para compartirla sin egoísmo. Es por eso que cada video tiene el enlace y la información de dónde fue descargado. Esperamos que los videos y la información sean útiles para usted.
In the current battle between artists whose aim is total abstraction and those advocating a return to objective reality, it's interesting to observe the creative processes of an eclectic. An artist who preserves a link with the figurative world, but treats his material with the freedom of those who have entered into total divorce from their surroundings. This is the case of David Manzur, one of the most brilliant Colombian artists. For purposes of comparison, and in order to accent the curved shape of the lute, Manzur associated it with an orange. The copper tone of the instrument and the yellow hue of the fruit provide the formal theme of the painting, which might be entitled Lute and Orange. As in the case of many painters, Manzur is an accomplished draftsman. In his creative process, the establishment of form is the first step. Therefore, all his compositions have their beginning in a preparatory drawing, which is merely an exercise, not a model for the picture that's to come later. With a few strokes, the back of the lute begins to take shape as the dominant feature of the composition. Manzur has an absorbing interest in forms, but forms abstracted from the milieus in which we normally think of them as existing. Passionately fond of music, especially that of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, he is always surrounded by musical instruments. Watercolors in their purest form are laid on a white plate, which the artist uses as a palette for sharper distinction between tones. The central forms are gradually surrounded by a zone of darkness. Manzur views his work in a mirror to verify the balance between the forms. The form of the lute will be transferred to canvas in the definitive work which the artist will now undertake. But once its essential plastic function has been achieved, it will gradually be fused into the surface of the painting. The parallel lines of the lute's back once again appear. An overly wet brush causes the paint to drip. However, the dripping will find its place in the picture. Yellow is first applied and then all but erased for purposes of balance. A somber ochre, made of a blend of raw sienna and ivory black, gradually assumes dominance over the painting. A white tempera is applied, quite dry, for textural purposes and to produce an effect of light. Manzur places the canvas on the floor in order to approach it from a new angle. Applying the darkest tone by spilling will provide additional texture and also an effect of accident, loose but controlled. Step by step, the painting has been taking shape and is now far advanced. In 3 sessions, the artist has brought it almost to completion. Manzur works rapidly and with great dexterity. He took up painting while still a youth, as a hobby to which he turned for relaxation from labors as an actor and stage designer. Born in the Colombian city of Neira in 1929, he spent his early years in Spain and on the west coast of Africa, but then returned to his native land and received his professional training at the National School of Fine Arts in Bogota. After establishing a zone of white, Manzur dissolves dark pigment in a mixture of turpentine, varnish damar, linseed oil, and cobalt dryer, and proceeds to envelop the light area in what we might call a veil of total mystery. It's the light spot which is the center of interest for him. It must be made to render its function as a focal point. The yellowish suggestion of the orange is almost completely absorbed in darkness. The eye is drawn to 2 points of light, emerging from velvety surroundings of intense ochre and neutral shades. Manzur makes use of all sorts of instruments, but he never completely abandons the traditional brush. Conscious of the important role traditional elements can play in leading art into new paths, he gives clear evidence of the training he received in Bogota and earlier still at art school in the Canary Islands. Later, he studied for a year at the Art Students League in New York. Upon his return to Colombia, he had all but reached artistic maturity. In his native land, he has won prizes at several salons and has executed murals in various media. First under a fellowship of the Organization of American States, and then under a grant from the Guggenheim Foundation, Manzur has of late been devoting full time to engraving at the Pratt Institute in New York, while his previously composed paintings have been exhibited both in the United States and in other countries. The painting of the lute and the orange is now all but complete. Manzur has not strayed far from his point of departure. The objects he took as his theme have been converted into two spots of light glowing out of darkness, but their essential nature still persists.